Having a business in different countries, how is to manage with different cultures?
I try to do business around food, or I try to do business around gatherings or meetings, or around familiarity.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Vision and Circle podcast. Today we will have a podcast different. This more like a conversation. We are here. I'm João C. Silva.
And I'm Alvaro.
And we are here together at this place to have to share with you some insights about what is the business, especially in the Middle East, culture, traveling. So we have so many things to share with you guys. Alvaro is a multicultural entrepreneur and a visionary leader. He runs different companies and he is from Colombia. He already traveled to 85 countries and will share some inputs with you. And the first question is, for you, having a business in different countries, how is to manage with different cultures? Because all the stakeholders, they have different cultures, they are from different nationalities. How do you manage that, and how is the impact on that on a daily business?
I believe that when you connect with different cultures, the first impression, as we were talking earlier, from people according to their nationality, it's always based in what they've lived and what they've experienced, right? So it's like my way to go about it usually is I try to negotiate on areas that are universal for everyone, right? That are like part of our common language, right? So I try to do business around food, or I try to do business around gatherings or meetings, or around familiarity. And we notice a lot, for example, as Latin Americans, that our cultures are very much connected or similar to the way how Middle Easterns and some people in Asia do business. When I'm doing business in Middle East and, for example, in India, it's very similar. We normally sit down together. We build first a personal connection, a personal relationship. We're talking about it. And then eventually we start getting into business and do something together. However, if you are dealing with people in Africa or in Europe, and in some countries in Africa or in Europe or in North America, you normally are more qualified based in the amount of results that you had before and the different things or projects that you led and so on. What I try to do in order to get to the markets is I try to first understand where my client comes from, what are the things that they potentially need, for example, or if I'm dealing with a new employee, I try to understand what are those things that could connect them, for example, with the other people are in the team and in the culture. And then based on that, I start from there. To give you an example, I guess that one of the best things that can really exemplify that is we were recently doing a project with a team that was from Australia, from Singapore, from India, and from the Middle East. And it was very interesting because everybody had a different vision of how they wanted to do things, right? And some people like going around and around and around and around. In certain cultures, they don't know how to say no to things.
Oh, yes.
And they don't know how to move from there or how to make a decision quick because they might feel bad about saying no to someone. Yeah, yes. Or rude about saying no to someone. And some others, they will be super straightforward and say yes or no right away, right? So what our role was is we tried to be the middle point. We tried to sit down and to be the middle ground where they could come. We bring in that balance, right? And try to be the mediator. So then when people are facing decisions, facing the opportunity to make decisions or facing troubles in the team or having to maybe buy something new or so on, we will always bring that middle ground perspective. And that was our way and our opportunity to do something.
Okay, very interesting. You also have partners and employees from different nationalities. Do you adapt your way of talking or anything regarding the nationality where they came from? How do you have an example?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, look, I am a Colombian, right? So it's
Yes.
like Colombians, we are normally considered like the nice guy of the party, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we are always told, or we are always thought to be that guy who brings in the celebration, the happiness, and blah 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 blah, and that's cool to some extent, but that's not true, right? So, and also, if people consider you only that guy, you are going to feel bad all the times when you like try to bring some order in the house.
Yes. More
So,
serious issues.
yeah, so personally, for example, what I try to do with the people I work with is I explain them who I am and how I make decisions and how I tell things to people right away and before they actually or we actually start interacting. So, for example, very important things for me, I always tell things straight away.
Okay.
Like, I don't like going around and I don't like being told things like in that way. I feel it's exhausting and I don't think that is productive. So I prefer if it's a yes, it's yes. If it's a no, it's no. If somebody made a mistake, it's important for me that they recognize it because then like we can do something about it. And if a person has something hard to tell me, I prefer that they tell it to me rather than telling it to other people in the team or so. And that contaminates the vibe and is not
Yeah,
necessary.
it's toxic.
Exactly. I like making decisions fast. So it's like, and yeah, and I prefer like that I make a mistake and then like we can correct it and then like we go with it rather like just waiting too much for it. And the third thing, I like connecting with people personally. So it's like, to me, more than my work relationship, the importance lies on my personal relationship with people. If I cannot have a personal relationship with someone I work with, I don't work with that person.
Yeah, I think the same. But for example, in Europe, in Portugal, this is not a good strategy. Usually,
Right.
we learn that we cannot have like a personal relationship with the people that we work with. But I totally disagree. There are some. I opened, for example, my company Digital Connection 10 years ago with my best friend,
Yeah.
and everyone was worried because we were best friends, and they say, "Oh, we will lose the friendship." And for me, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
So we need to have like this confiance, you know, you need to like to work with people in order to succeed. Also the same with some employees. For example, now we are 10 years in the market in Portugal, and the people that are with us, employees that are with us long time ago, are the ones that we became friends.
Yeah.
You know, because they feel like they are at home. When you have that like distance, emotional distance, we don't get to another level, and it's something more temporary instead of permanent, I believe.
And do you think that it's important to have good and bad moments for you to build those friendships?
Of course, because relationships is like that.
Yeah.
Everything in life, it's for you to feel that you have a positive, a good moment, you need to experience the bad moment. Otherwise, you don't have a reference of a good moment as well. So, as in and the way that our brain it is like biochemistry, we need that. We need that perception. So, to grow a relationship, you must have bad and good moments. So I do have good and bad moments with my relationships, personally, family, friends, with clients as well. Sometimes we fight with some clients, and with some employees. But I think this is very healthy when it's not toxic, as you said. When we start with some gossip, you know, and we are not honest and say in front what you think, this is the bad point of the relationships.
You know, when you were asking me about if I adapt, for example, my language to people, is like the same way how I tell people right away, like those things. I like people to tell me how they like to be treated. Because if we're talking about productivity, everybody works in a different way, right? So, for example, in Circolo, uh, which is one of my companies, we don't really have time schedules, right? So it's like we don't work from 9 to 5, and many people were like conflicted about it, and they're like, how come you don't have time schedules. You don't have a place, like, because we work remotely from different parts of the world. And so on, it's still like you manage to be a global company. And it's like, look, this is the thing. It's like, I'm an architect. I studied architecture. And as an architect, I know that the best time I work is between 6 in the morning and 1 p.m. But then I have another employee, and he's a graphic designer, and his peak time is between 8 p.m. and midnight, right? And like, how can I actually...
Yes, how do you manage?
Yeah, if I judge him for like his productivity between 9 to 5, right, it's probably not be as productive.
Yeah.
As
And you are
I am.
losing as a company.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm losing as a company because I'm not like giving him his moment to shine and to do things. So it's like that's summarized in two meetings a week, one on Mondays, one on Fridays, where we talk about what we did and how we did it, and that's it. And then they have internal meetings with other peers that they like work with and so on. And then like when I talk to them, I try to talk in their language and in the way how they like being treated. If they like things right away, I tell things straight to their faces. And if they like a bit that softer touch, I try to do it, right? However, one thing that I like really, really appreciate is that thing that you were sharing is about like having personal connections. Because to me, I don't know, I believe in the importance of being able to have difficult conversations with someone.
Yeah.
Right? And like in a company, many times you have a lot of difficult conversations, and it's because everybody's putting their sweat and everybody's is putting like all their effort to make something happen. And if you don't have people who are willing to do that in your company, then why are you working with those people? Right? First and second, if you have real friends that you are working with, because of these people love you, these people are also going to give their best to do everything they can.
100%.
Right? And same, because you love these people, you are going to do everything you can to keep that relationship going.
And it's easier to work as well, and it's more productive when you do something with passion, and it's not like a job like 9 to 5, as you said, that you just are there to do the job. There is something missing when you do that.
Yes. Do you think that like what's the future that you imagine like for the work? Because what we've seen is more people like working from different parts. Yes. Companies are trying like to bring people back to their offices, but people are kind of not liking it.
Actually, I have a very specific idea in like the work, like in 50 years from now, that I can tell with the growing of AI, okay? I believe that the jobs that the people don't like to do, they are more mechanic, more operational, they will be done by robots or whatever, you know, even the agriculture, like all that thing that people don't like to do. So us as a community, we will have time to do what we want, and we will have time to think about ourselves, because you know the pyramid of Maslow, once we complete one level, we start to think about the other level. So I think we'll have more time for art, for painting, for thinking about what are the happiness, because nowadays happiness is related with money, with have a good career, but for me the true happiness is not nothing about that, you know. Happiness is related how you feel with yourself. But people don't have time to think about that, because people, they have to work, they have the family to take care, because sometimes they don't want to have a family, but we learn that you have to have a family, you have to have kids. And I believe that when the job is seeing not just to to have food on the table, and you can have a job that you will love, I think we will reach to another level of human beings, you know. I think this is going to happen. I don't know if like 50 years, 100 years, but I think this is the future of the humanity.
I think that I believe that is very curious, and that has happened throughout history, is that at many points we've had technological advancements and some kind of like quantic jumps in terms of improvement and so on. And at that time, people would believe that there would be like this kind of like replacement of jobs, or like this let's say, transformation of the occupations of people, what actually consistently happened was like there was this evolution in the way how people work and how people do things, and like this enhancement in the capacity for people to create and to do more things, right? It happened when in the ancient Egypt 5,000 years ago, people started to use the abacus to then like count the crops and so on and so on, right? It technified it, so it made it faster. So then like people could actually like start like different systems to stock their crops and like to, and to count them. Then like it improved the way how people negotiate and so on. Or it happened when in Turkey or in Izmir, they invented the coins, and they like, instead of trading things or
Like,
trading goods,
yes,
they had something that finally they could
reference,
use,
yes.
right? That weighted something, right? Like they didn't have to use any more paper, so they didn't have to use. And the papers came after they were using salt, right? And this is why in Spanish, for example, we say salario,
Yeah,
because it was like
in Portuguese as well.
yeah, exactly. It says
Salário.
like salario
Yeah.
because it's like it was salt, right?
Salt,
That was
yeah.
like that was used to pay for things. And then when the spreadsheets were created, right, to replace the accountant books, people would complain because they would say that this would replace accountants and so on, because people would do it from their homes and blah blah and so on and so on. No, accountants actually had a better tool to enhance things. I think that consistently, human beings, we are addicted to do nothing and to kind of like commission that responsibility on someone who actually is skilled to do this. What I believe about AI is that it actually, once we learn how to use it,
Of course.
will enhance the capacity of people who are already good in what they do, and certain careers will still exist. It's very hard to replace the knowledge in certain areas that are very specific. And it is actually, from my point of view, more likely that these people are just going to acquire an additional tool that will help them like understand better. Like inside the company, we use AI for a lot of things.
Yeah, me too.
We in fact have now like some bots that we train in the legal department that we use for the legal things. In the finance, we use another bot that we train as well. We have a bot that is trained for us, like to create content and so on. Like, so it's like we are training bots for different things. So then it helps the people in the different areas of the company to do specific things. But it's not necessarily like replacing.
Of course not, but it's part of the humanity as well. Be a fear, This is part of what we are. But that's when we came. The problem is never the technology or the AI. The problem is the way that we use it, and we need to learn. And it's part of the process to have to. Sometimes you go one step further and two step backs, and then two step forward and one step back. So it's part of the journey, and it's regulatory. So what I mean it is maybe, probably, and you use a very good example is the history. You will see that maybe with the AI and this technology, it will be a transition mode, and this transition will be chaotic a little bit, and the people will have fear that they can replace some jobs, they will drop, and people need to reinvent themselves. We as a humanity, we need to reinvent what our purpose and what we can do with that. But after that stage of chaotic, a little bit chaotic, after this transition, I think the quality of life of people can be more deep and better. For example, in industrial revolution, everything changed, and now the people say, now we are not in a good moment, but we are much better now than 100 years ago, when our grandfathers they work in factories and they didn't have any quality of life. Nowadays, I think with the time, the quality of life of the people is still increasing, and I believe this is part of the journey that people, as I mentioned before, are afraid of that, but I think people shouldn't be afraid, should see it as a positive thing and learn how to use it and make it work, because as soon as you understand that those platforms and those technologies are here, they won't disappear anymore. So as soon as we understand how to use them, it's better for us. You said that in your company you already use a lot of AI, for example. Me too. I use that and I save a lot of time. And because I've saved a lot of time, I have more time to different things. I have more time to think. I have more time for creativity. I have more time for my personal life as well. So those things, it's not they are replacing, but I think on top they are add value to the business environment. You start your business how long ago?
Círculo.
Circolo?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. And you opened here in the UAE or in Colombia?
Our first entity was opened in Canada, in Toronto.
In Canada?
Yes.
Your first clients are from Canada?
No, I always had clients from all over the world. There's something I never understood, by the way, in the way how people normally do business, right? And it's because I don't have a training in business management or anything like by career. Like all my business references were from my family. My family's always been in business, in different industries, but in business. And in my case, I never understood why people, when they open a company in a place, they only operate in that place, right? I always thought of the places where you have a business just as places for you to operate. But to me, it would always be irrelevant, like where you have a business. So our first company, actually, our first version of Circulo 1.0, was open in Canada, and it was out of practicality. We were in the middle of COVID. We were already like 2 years doing a project that before Circulo was called Together Podemos. We wanted to evolve it and to transform it in a company because it was kind of an impact project. And with Marco, who is my co-founder, we said we need to open the company somewhere. Marco is Mexican Canadian, and it was easier to open the company remotely in Canada.
Yeah.
So I was in Uganda because of COVID, and Marco was in Canada. We opened the company there, and that's it, right? And then this is how we started operating. We opened the website, and then from there we start taking orders and doing things and so on. And then eventually.
How do you get your client? You're saying that
via recommendation, usually. And this is very interesting because many companies, they put a lot of money in marketing, and I know, I know the importance of it. But I guess that best marketing you can do is having a great reputation.
Of course, but it's part of communication as well.
Right.
It's corporate communication.
Right, but for us, we never really invested heavy amounts of money in marketing or in having a sales team, right? It was never like that. And only until this year, when we decided to expand this area and to actually have specific people in the area of partnerships, in the area of sales, and from next year, an official marketing director, right, that we're already waiting for. We never really thought about having a marketing strategy or something. Everything was reduced to having good projects, doing a great job, and then people will recommend us, and that's it.
Yes.
Right. Course. And we also didn't have enough capacity to
get more
clients. So it's it was very steady, right? Our tickets are very high. So it's for us, it was good. And then when we moved the company to Kenya, and I opened the second operational entity in Nairobi, we started getting an influx of a lot of clients. The team grew a lot in Kenya. But again, we never really need to have marketing or sales, because it was always we had more needs in growing our operations team than having the need of growing our sales team, right? So we had a great operations team. We could take in a lot of projects, but we never had to market the company and so on. I moved in the UAE 3 years ago when when I came here. I did a first attempt of opening the company here in Dubai, and it was a crazy experience. But then what I want to focus is I learned as well that maybe the company was in a different moment, and now we needed to start looking for alternatives of like making it grow in a different way, because everything was also reduced to what normally my practice is reduced, right? Like the architect is normally the person that people are looking for. They want to see your face, they want to meet with you, they want to sit with you.
Yes.
Right? And they want you to do everything because you're essentially an artist.
Yeah.
Right? But you're like building projects or designing an expo or designing anything. Like you are doing this thing. And the experiential designers in the world are like 15. So it's like we are not a lot of people. So it's like people are looking for a specific people. And at some point I say, okay, I want to move this from being like Circolo Alvaro, right? To be like Circolo, the company that actually creates all this. And we started like we've been 2 years in this transformation, and thankfully it's been giving results. And now we do have marketing and we do have a sales team. But again, it was through learning of more like scaling up the company and trying to give it a name by itself and not like depending on my name as a professional.
So basically, marketing is part of communication, and communication is the most important thing. Then you have you have marketing, you have advertising, you have PR, you have intern communication, and it's very important for a company, and for sure that you did it in your beginning in like a organic way. It's to build reputation, as you said. This is something that is part of the communication strategy. Is to have a good brand, a good logo. It's to have a website, a professional website. Is to your proposals, the way that you send your proposals, what you write, what you present yourself, your image as well. So everything is marketing communication. So maybe you don't think about, I'm spending a lot of time in marketing, but I believe that organically in turn, because you are also aware of that, and you also, as a person, you are like this, and you like to have like a clean and professional marketing materials, but the entrepreneurs, they can start on doing marketing in that case, and then when they want to scale and they want to expand, then they can invest on sales teams, on digital marketing, on offline marketing sometimes with events, sponsor some events to give them a jump and to be easier to reach more people and get more clients.
Yes, I have a point of view on that, and is I tried many times to do marketing in different ways, let's say like with companies and so on and so on. And I thought that these people were not helping me like to grow the business or so on. But the reality is that I was not ready as a business to have that kind of support and to have that kind of like push, let's say. And for some other businesses, it's easy. Like I am a business partner in another company. And from day zero, because the product is very well defined and we exactly know like what we are selling, what's the price and everything and so on, we needed to do marketing, right? Like we needed to pay some ads, to sponsor some events, to do some things, like because the reputation was gained through marketing in this case, right? And like somehow like we will attract clients, then eventually like we will be the attraction and so on and so on. And with some other project we have, the reputation that we are building or the marketing that we are doing is through the community that we are building, right? Through the people that we have around and so on, like investing or part of the project. This particular case, Circolo, only until this year, after like different things that happened, we were like, we need an actual head of marketing, because now the company is operating in so many countries, like has different markets, has like all these things and so on and so on. I think we need someone to do this. And we actually spent 3 months like doing all the assessment and like interviewing candidates and like trying to get the best person to do this job particularly. In the end, we had two options. And the person that now is going to take over the role is actually not starting now, but is starting in March next year.
Okay.
And it's based on something like I have two people starting next year in March. One is my new marketing director, and the other is my new government and public affairs director. And it's because one thing I learned is I hire for the future, right? Like I hire for the moment that I think I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the moment when I actually need these people, and I prepare for that moment. Because this person or these humans are so talented and so valuable that I want to have job to give them. To have some things that they have to do that they need to come on and like execute, right? And they have incredible experience in each of their things, in each of their roles, and so on and so on. And it took me a lot to choose them, but they are the perfect person. Like our government and public affairs director that is starting as well in March, it took me 6 months to choose.
It's very interesting what you're saying, because how do you know they are the
right fit?
Yes, what is important for you?
Oh, for me, I pay a lot of attention to how people talk to me and why people talk to me. It's very easy to get lost when like people treat you nicely, because there is a point in which you are in a certain position, everybody will treat you nicely.
Yeah, because they expect something.
Yeah, everybody will be nice to you. Everybody like will be talking to you like, hey, how are you? You are amazing, blah, 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 all these things and so on and so on. And I respect a lot when people are honest with me. Yeah. I love it. Like that I love. Yeah. Right? So it's like people who are able to see what are the things that we are doing great in the company, and people who are able to give me an advice are people I really value and I want to have next to me. Yeah. Right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is like I pay a lot of attention to their performance. I look for people who are busy. Right? Like I don't hire people who are unemployed. And there is a reason, like the best in the world are busy.
Yes, of course.
Right? That's why they are the best in the world. So it's like I want to have someone who is the best in the world. And this is very funny because when I was 16, like everybody has this teenager phase in which they fight with their parents and so on, and they are like for some people they fight with their parents because their parents don't want to let them go to a party or like to drink or so on. It's like I remember I was 16, between my 14 and 16, I was giving a hard time to my mom because I was telling my mom, I want to have only the best. And I will be the best in the world in what I do. And I know I can do the best and so on. And so my mom was like, you need to be patient. Yeah. Like, you're so dramatic. Like, you need to be patient. Like, you need to calm down. Right? It's like, and it's like, I think that obsession stays, like remains, is when I want to hire someone, I want to hire the best person. I don't want to have someone I can afford. Right? Like, because if I was like that, I will not have the things I have. Yeah. So right? I don't like to have things I can afford.
For you, what is to be the best for you, for yourself?
For me, the best person. For me or the best person?
No, for you. You said that you wanted to be the best.
The best person in what I do. Well, the first thing is well-rounded, right? Like, I think that if you are to be the best in whatever you are, it's important for you to have content and depth. Right? So it's like part of being the best is being curious, to learn about the world, to learn about other cultures, to constantly allow yourself to be curious and like go deeper and deeper and learn about different topics and try to understand different points of view and visions, especially in what I do. That's a very important skill. Because if you are able to have this type of conversations, you will also be able to listen and to ask the right questions, right? So it's like, that was very important. The second thing is to prepare yourself, right? Like to perform. It's like many people subestimate the importance of keeping a balance between having deep knowledge, like technical knowledge in what you do, and cultural knowledge, and then like taking care of your body. Like taking care of my body is something super important. Yes. Because it's a machine. In the end, it's a machine, and it's like the one machine that will be with you all your life, right? And you decide if to upgrade it, to enhance it, or to keep it like how it is, and then eventually you will lose it. So it's like you need to be aware of the responsibility that you have of taking care of yourself in every aspect, as you mentioned, nutrition-wise, body-wise, right? Like being active,
Mindset.
your mindset,
Yes.
exactly. Like, and also the way how I surround myself, right? Like, because again, I like having things I can't afford. So I ideally want to be surrounded by people who are better than me, right? I ideally want to be in environments that are the type of environments where I would like to hang out, where I would like to be, I like to be surrounded by, because these are the type of things that can like make my mind grow and aspire for better things and for bigger things. And the last thing is again like that comprehensive knowledge and that respect for other cultures. In my case, it comes to the extent of even learning new languages
Yeah.
or traveling around the world and like going deep in other cultures and trying to interact with the families in the best neighborhoods and also in the poorest neighborhoods,
Yes.
and like just trying to understand the reality not from a biased perspective, but from every possible point of view you can.
That's true, because it's very reductive when you just live in a bubble and you just saw like and experience one social status is very important for me as well. Try and meet people from, you know, the poorest guy to the richest guy, because they have something to add on you. Something that we are talking about, and I would like to ask you, is who inspires you?
My grandma. It's very easy. Like my
Why?
grandma inspires me so much. I always tell this story. People are already tired about this, by the way. But I always tell this story, right? Like it's like my family comes from a long line of innovators, but then 60 something years ago there was this disruption in Colombia because we had a war, right? Like we had an internal conflict
Yes.
that unfortunately touched many lives and many people. More than 8 million people were displaced internally in Colombia. We used to be the country with the largest amount of internal displacement in the world. And of course, every person in Colombia had someone who was somehow affected by this war, either through a kidnapping or displacement, forced displacement, or the death of a person, or anything like related to these type of things. My family was affected by all of this. And my grandma was very, very young when they had to move from the place where they used to live in the south of the Bolivar, which is a state in Colombia, to Cesar, which is another state in Colombia. They had to walk all their way out of the place where they used to live. My grandma had 16 siblings. They didn't have to be back then, so this is why my great grandparents were there like so many babies. So it's like my grandma had 16 siblings, and they had to sell fried pork in the streets after having everything. Right, they ended up selling fried pork in the streets, sleeping in a 3 by 3 meter room, which is like a tenth of my current house. Right, like so it's like 16 people, 18 people living in a 9 square meter apartment.
Yeah.
Right,
Different times.
9 square meter room, not even apartment.
Yeah,
right, like
yeah.
they would take care of a farm because that was the way how they will not pay rent, right? And they will have in this farm plantains, rice, and like some cows and so on. So it's like they will figure out a way to make rice with cheese and banana, which is what they will eat every day. And my grandma, when she was 12, between 9 and 12, she would sell fried pork in the street, and she will be the one who managed the money from the sales because she was very shy to sell anything, right? And this is how she learned how to write and how to do math operations, right? And as she was growing up, she quit that job. She worked one day as a maid. She only lasted one day because she didn't like to be like, like directed in anything. And she started selling underwear door by door. Eventually, underwear. Like back then, like by the way, like people will not go to a place to buy underwear because it was like embarrassing.
Yeah.
So it's like they will buy like on like door by door, right?
So
in
she
the house.
saw an opportunity in the market.
Yes, she bought a dozen of panties and she started selling underwear door by door. Eventually, she became a distributor of clothing. The shop that she was running when she was 25, was burned down by the men in the town because it was impossible that a woman had a business.
Okay.
Right? She had to run away. She had two children, my mom and my uncle. She divorced, then she married again, then like she became a businesswoman, then eventually she became Um, well, an entrepreneur, then a businesswoman, then an industrialist, and then she opened companies in different countries, and she became a millionaire. And everything without going to school, everything without the kind of privileges I had in life, everything like with all this type of like just stamina and like, you know, curiosity to do things and so on and so on and grow. And with that addiction to do something out of love for others, which in this case were my mother and my aunts and my uncle, and also to move away from those things and never put an excuse on those things that were not going well in their life, right? So the reason why she's an inspiration for me, it's because my life was so different. I did have access to every privilege you can count, right? And I did have access to everything I wanted and things I didn't even need. And it's impossible that I wake up one day and that I complain about something, knowing that a person that is part of my family works so hard for so many things without complaining about anything, right? And that she had potentially 25 less what I had in my life, right? So it's like my responsibility every day is to do at least 25 times more what she did, right? And this is what I try to build.
Very interesting.
Who
Very
inspires you?
interesting. Actually, I have different type of source of inspiration, okay? So for me, to understand the right and the wrong, I use my family as my, inspiration. My father already passed away, but also the memories and the education that I had from him, my aunt and my two brothers, because they have a huge sense of justice. So when I'm feeling if it's fair or not fair, I inspire myself on how they will think about it, okay? But then they are very intellectual. They are not business. They don't like business. They like to read. They like to learn about things. So it's very different, and I'm very different from them in this sense. And they don't appreciate me as a business man. They don't care about it. They don't feel that it's a good thing, For them, a good thing is to be kind, to help others, My father did a lot of charity. He was like, he worked in a different institutions, like an organizations, like pro bono always. And for them to make money is not something that they really appreciate on that. So on the business and the business side, they are not my inspiration,
Right.
But to understand what is wrong and right, I always think about them. Then I surrender myself. For me, it's very important, as you said, surrender myself with people that can inspire me the way they see the life, Sometimes the people that don't have nothing, but they are positive and they need to face the problem in a happy way, inspires me. Because for me, the most important thing is be happy. Every day I need to feel that I'm happy, that I'm doing the good thing, not because of what I have, but because I have love. I'm surrendered to people that I love, and I'm doing what I love as well. So for me, this is the most important thing. So the people that surround me is very important.
Nice.
Then I'm also inspired by media like Netflix, like some business men, that they could achieve and they could create great companies, also inspires and influence me in the way that I think, because we are much more influenced than what we think. Sometimes people say, I'm not influenced, or I don't care about what people think or whatever, but it's part of being man or woman. We are, and I'm aware of those things. I try to disconnect and deconstruct that to understand what is my purpose. Because for me, one of the most important things in life is to understand your purpose and what you really want and what really makes sense for you. Because I think we live in a society as well that people wants to have everything and very quickly. They want to be great parents, they want to have a great career, they want to be millionaires, they want to travel, they want to be at home, they want everything. And the life in real practice is not like that.
Yeah.
You make to do choice and decisions. It's not, you don't have time all your life to have time for your kids, for your family, for your friends, for your business. When I started my business 10 years ago, for 2 years, I was just focused on my business. I never catch up with my friends. I was focused on my business. And this part of create something, you know, it's your energy should focus on one thing. Yeah, so basically I have different source of inspirations, and I don't have like one role model as we have, but it's very, very interesting that you have it. And your grandmother should be a very interesting woman. She's
a
still
rock star.
alive?
Yeah, she's still alive. She's a
How
rock
old is
star.
she?
She's now 72.
72, she's young.
Super young.
Yeah.
She still works. Now she opened a new company now. Like, she's so cool, like, really.
And we are talking about make decisions as entrepreneurs and businessmen and running business. We need to make so many decisions every day. How you use your emotions and how you manage that to make the right decisions?
I think that many of us are not so much in peace with the idea of involving emotions in making decisions. And many people are always saying like, don't make emotional decisions and blah, blah.
It's impossible.
More than impossible, like, I don't think it's healthy. You know what I mean? It's like your emotions should be involved in every part of your life, and that's it, right? And you cannot just separate like magically, like what you feel with what you think and what you want, right? Those things should be like in peace.
In balance.
Right, in balance. What I try to do is first, when I make a decision, I try to put those three things in consideration, right? Like what I think. For example, if it's about a person, it's what I currently think, what I thought throughout the time. Then what I feel is very important, right? And what I feel now and what I felt all this time, and then what I want, right? Like what I currently want and what I've wanted, right? And what I would like to happen. And if, for example, somebody is giving me that, then of course I decide positively. If somebody's not giving me that, I just decide in a different direction. And in my case, I don't think there is a balance. I think that it's important. And to me, actually, you know, it's like, let's talk about this. For many people, they are really scared, like, of seeing like the reactions of the employees or the people they work with and so on, like when they are like scared or annoyed or sad or so on or so on. But the sad reality is that if you have a team who cannot see you sad, and he will not tolerate when they see you angry or when they see you like that you want to give up, because these are normal emotions and normal feelings, and the people like just freak out when you have all these things. Well, maybe you are not with the right team, right? Like, maybe like these are not the type of people. If people start gossiping about you and so on, and they don't talk to you and so on, instead they talk, maybe you're not building that trust, or maybe you build that trust, but this is just the nature that they have, right? And if you don't feel comfortable with something and you are not able to say that you feel uncomfortable, maybe the environment that you have is not the right environment, right? So it's like, to me, involving emotions is very important. I don't want to build my own business to be afraid in my own business about saying what I want, doing what I want, and going where I want. Exactly. And feel what I want. Like, I don't want to be scared in my own space. Right? I don't want to not be able to express who I am in my own space. And I don't want the people to not feel they can express themselves. Right? It's like the line between respect and disrespect there is very thin. I honestly believe that sometimes disrespect is needed. Because this also helps us to draw limits. This also helps us know what are the things that other people accept and what are the things that people don't, and vice versa. And this helps us understand that people in the end are humans, right? It's like we are not working with gods who are telling us what to do. This is not the old times where like the decisions of the bosses were almighty. Like, it's like, this is the time in which people have their own opinions. And it's good to give people that voice
Yeah.
and to have that voice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. In my personal case, I just try to, when I have an intense emotion, such as angry or very happy, I try to not make any decision. Because when when the emotions are very intense, your brain cuts some part, your thoughts are different. So I try to not make decisions on this case. I try to make decisions when I'm more calm down and with a positive feeling. This is the only thing that I try to.
I read at some point that you shouldn't make decisions when you're angry, when you're mad, when you're happy, or when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Honestly, I used to agree with that, but recently I made a decision when I was very angry, like very, very angry, very disappointed, very sad, and all this.
And it was the
things.
best decision of
It
your
was the
life.
best decision I made in a long time.
But in a business or personal?
Business, you know what I mean? And it was becoming a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of the best decisions I made in a long time. Because with the time passing, consistently I've noticed that probably I was not the right person for this particular case. And in the counterpart, this was not the right environment. This was not the right situation. This was not the right person, right? It's like, and it took me so many months to actually make that decision, right?
Yeah,
And
you
like,
needed that intensity.
I needed that
to
because
break it.
otherwise,
Yeah,
it
you
would-
will just
otherwise
keep
I
going.
will just keep going. And to me, for example, it's very difficult sometimes to make decisions, especially like when they are like
Related to
bad
people,
things,
yeah.
yeah, like and so on. Because I I understand that we held ourselves, like others, accountable for a lot of things and ourselves as well. Like sometimes we criticize a lot and so on and so on, but we don't do many things. So it's like my approach normally towards people is like, you can improve. Like, what can I do for you to improve? How can I give you more tools? What can we do? And so on and so on. But sometimes you are not just meant to be together and that's it. You know what I mean? And you need to accept it. It's like we all want to be superheroes in the life of someone, and people also want to be the best version they can. But sometimes the best version you can is not the best version for another person. And this is something you need to understand.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you cannot be the best version of you is probably not the best for others.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And it's probably like toxic for others, but you are being the best.
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean? And that's it. And it's like sometimes this is something that needs to be understood. And sometimes this hardness or this like horrible situation needs to happen, so then like it breaks. And it's like a balloon, right? Like it pops.
Yeah.
And that's it. And probably it's the best thing you can do.
But once you get out of this, it's like you said, more things just are going to happen that will be very positive.
Yes, and also there is a lot of collateral damage, right? Like,
Yes.
but again, like in this collateral damage, you see what are the things that you can improve or change, and what are the things that you cannot do, and you need to carry on and cope with that. You cannot fix everything.
Yeah. I would just like to touch in one more point, okay? That we discussed it before. You were talking about you lived in Dubai, and 1 year ago you moved to Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
Can you share like the difference between living in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and how helped you to grow your business as well?
I think that these cities have two different models of growth and two different models of development that could be beneficial for people in different industries, different career decisions, and different moments in their lives. Dubai is a city that has a great environment for entrepreneurs to feel that sense of urgency.
Yes.
That not many times is present, right? Like many people live their lives like just sitting, not doing anything. Once you're in Dubai, you realize that the world is moving faster, and it's for the people who take the opportunities, who do something about things, who move.
Even the 24 hours a day looks like 2 hours. It's
Yes,
crazy.
yes. You cannot be in Dubai without doing something.
Yeah.
You need to do something, right? Whether you want to meet people, whether you want to work in a project, whether you need to do something. This is a city to do something for the doers, for the game changers, for the people who are building something that you need to build, to do, to execute. This is a city that is fast. If you don't understand this, the city will eat you alive. You know what I mean? You will not realize when your money was like just finished, when your social life that just became something weird, right? Like, because the same aspect that you have like this fast-paced life, you also have other bubbles and other environments that can like consume you a lot, right? Like if you focus all these opportunities that you have in terms of entertainment, events, and so on, purely for pleasure, yes, you will enjoy, and at some point, you will realize that you could have done better, right? Because then like it will consume you and it will like make you addicted.
It's exhausting as well.
Yeah, and exhausted, right? So this is a great environment where you can have a lot of opportunities, where you can build a lot of things. And it's an environment for people who normally want to network, to like be out and about, right? And talk with other people who are like-minded and so on.
But as you said, sometimes that networking is not that worth it, right?
Well, I call it not working, right? It's like you go out and like in any environment,
the same as
like in any environment, you will have this sense that sometimes you go out to meet a lot of people and you find exactly the same people in the same events, and at some point you start wondering, at one time these people are working, right? Like you don't know what time people are actually working or doing something or building something. And this is a bit preoccupying because you notice how the time passes, your money is invested in things, but these things are not bringing like a lot of revenue, right?
Yes.
And it's okay if you, for example, don't have a purpose of building like a lot of things, to just go out and so on and like spend, or if you already have some income in other ways, right? But if you want to use these connections to make money, and if you see at some time that this is not happening, well, maybe there is a environment change that needs to be done. And if you are, for example, self-managed, like in my case, probably you need an environment that inspires you more. And in this case, this is why I moved to Abu Dhabi, because Dubai, it's amazing and very inspiring for people who are aspiring and becoming and like moving a lot, right? Like being out and meeting people constantly and so on and so on. And again, like it's a city where people are building things. And Abu Dhabi is a city where people are building things for a long term.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the long-term relationship. The people who want to play the long game, who want to stay for longer, who want to create something, and who want to choose, right? And this is something, for example, I found here. I love both cities. Both cities have their own dynamic. Abu Dhabi, for me at least, is a city where I get inspiration. Every time I come here, I feel that the world stops. And I can just finally sit down, think, and choose what I want. Choose when I want to be entertained, choose when I want to be connected, choose when I want to be inspired, choose when I want to relax, choose when I want to do something. This is a city that inspires me to be a better person every day, right? In a way that is deeper than just like the way that is socially accepted, right? Like this city makes me think about all the things that I will normally not think when I'm distracted, right? And that actually is what would like make me fall in love so much with this place.
And when you moved here to Abu Dhabi, you felt that your business grow.
Yeah.
But how you feel that it changed because you have more time for yourself?
Yeah.
So I think this is like Dubai, so many things happening that you don't have time to be with yourself and understand the purpose and understand how the best strategy.
I just say that, let's say that opinion is partialized, because for many people it works to dedicate. For many people, dedicating time for themselves is like seeing new people, meeting new people, socializing, interacting, connecting. And if you have that type of lifestyle, And if you have that if you get your inspiration from these sources, from the conversations you have, or these interactions and so on, maybe this type of environment is better for you. And under that perspective, maybe Dubai would be better for you, right? If you want to actually and constantly like being like surrounded, talking, doing things and so on, and like with all this fast-paced move. If you're a person who feels that it's more important to go inside, right? Because there's where your creativity resides. And turning off the voices of the outside is important for you to be able to create more things, to build more things. And that like you are able to see better when you are less distracted and so on. Maybe Abu Dhabi is better for you.
Okay, it was
right?
very, very clear.
Yes, so it's like I'm the second type of person.
Yeah.
Right? I like to choose when I want to go out with people. I like to choose when I want to meet someone. I like that the person who visits me is because they really want to spend time with me, right? I want to go somewhere because I really want to spend time in that situation with that person, in that environment. And I like to still have the ability to choose to spend my time alone, thinking, creating, and doing things. And that is what I have here.
Just one last question before the last part of the podcast. That is, what do you think or what do you feel that are the expectations that people have on you?
The expectations that people have on me.
Yes.
Until very recently, I thought that people wanted me to be always a nice person and that people saw in me somehow a very successful guy who does not have or who does not make mistakes and who always knows and is ahead of the things and so on and so on. And I realized that all those expectations were expectations I had from me.
That you project.
Yeah, that I projected on other people and I thought that people had about me. And to some extent they were true because I was forcing people to see that image of me. But then I started being a normal person, right? A person who makes some mistakes and a person who will like sometimes be very, very angry. And a person who will be sometimes like making decisions that nobody understands and that's it. And I realized that the one expectation that people ask from me is for me to be consistent and to deliver. And that is something I do with all my energy, like, right? With all happiness. I deliver. And I always try to do my best.
So now, to finish this conversation, let's discuss about travels, okay? You already visit 85 countries, correct?
Yes.
So from that 85 countries, do you identify one travel that changed your life?
Well, one thing that is important is that I'm the kind of person who, I don't know, like I have these cycles, right? Like I have these moments. Kind of every year I do a trip that like helps me make like a jump or a quantic leap, right? I believe a lot in quantic leaps and like changing and enjoying and like transforming. And there've been a number of places that I've visited or a number of journeys that I've made that helped me a lot and helped me transform. The first one I remember was before starting to travel the world, almost 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, I went to live in the jungle in Colombia for 7 months. Yeah, for 7 months.
Oh my God.
In the Tayrona National Park. And it was very transformative, right?
How old are you on that time?
28.
28. Yeah.
It was very transformative because then I decided to travel the world and to start this like big project without knowing really how to do it, right? Like without even having experience in how to make something like this, without having travel experience, without ever staying in a hostel, without even like doing like, I just wanted to do this massive project and I didn't know where to start. And it was very transformative. I think a second one that was very transformative was when I lived in Uganda during COVID. I moved to Uganda after I was kidnapped in Kenya. I escaped. Yeah, that's a long story. I escaped and so on.
You escaped?
Then, yeah, it's a long story. Like I escaped. I stayed one more week in Kenya, then I went to South Sudan, and then I went to Uganda. And when I was going to Rwanda that day, I was going to pick up my visa, and the president of Uganda decided to close the borders because of COVID. And he said it was going to be only 3 weeks. And it was 6 months.
Oh my
6
God.
months in Uganda. Then after Uganda, I went back to Kenya, and it was one of the best experiences in my life. Kenya is a wonderful country, and I love it. I consider it my second home, by the way. It's very, very, very important to me. And because of all the things I lived, last year I went for my 33rd birthday. I went to Izmir, to Turkey. I like all this area because this was the favorite area of Alexander the Great. And it was the main center for the Silk Road. It was also the place where coins were invented. It has, like, all this region has a lot of influence. And then, like, this trip in Turkey last year for my 33rd birthday, after I went to Adania, that is like where Cleopatra used to have with Mark Antony, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's like all this like history, like me, like trying to come back and like build up my company and do something bigger this year was very, very important. And this year, I just came back yesterday from a 1 month travel that I made to Russia, Azerbaijan, Indonesia, and India. And it was with the same purpose, right? Like how do I grow, and how do I like upgrade and update my mindset?
Reinvent yourself.
Yeah, it's like updating
my software.
my
Your
software. Yes,
yes.
yes. It's like now I'm not anymore the guy that I was a year ago, that was in this condition, had this reach, and had these possibilities. Now I'm this person. So it's like how I become aware of this and how I allow myself to use this that I have right now to grow.
Yeah.
So it's like this was this year. So I think that the most transformative, like, of all these, let's say, moments, was definitely my time in Uganda, right? Like, COVID was a very weird time for everybody, I guess, right? And it was a very depressive time for me. And it was also a time when I used to doubt a lot of things, right? Like, I think that people when they have privileges, or when we have privileges, like, we are not used to talk or to touch about certain topics, especially everybody expects from a businessman to look, to speak, and to do a certain type of things. People are not used to all these emotions and so on. I used not to embrace my emotions and my sensitiveness, like, in my way how, like, to approach business and to approach life. I used not to allow myself to become or to be this person who can still, like, be very emotional at the same time, a very good decision maker, and a great businessman. And I used to fall short in like projecting myself as a person who can do a lot of things, because I thought that the way how I should do great things was looking a lot like the references I had about business, right? And Uganda allowed me to become that person, or like the beta version of the person that I'm becoming. And that is something I will be forever grateful for.
Yeah, this is so nice.
What about you?
For me, I think the game changer for me, it was I didn't travel to 85 countries, but around like 33 or 34. And for me, it was when I went to New York the first time. I went there. I knew it was in 2018, before COVID, 2 years before COVID. And I knew that I wanted something different, from I think on that time I just would travel to Europe, because Europe is very, when you are European, you go to everywhere, it's very cheap, you meet all those countries. And it was my first contact, I think, with the different culture.
Wow.
And I saw all the busy city, the buildings and everything, and I knew that I wanted to move out of Portugal. Okay, so that's was my biggest game changer when I traveled. Then I went to Shanghai as well in 2019, and I felt the same feeling that I really wanted to live in a busy city, like Shanghai, New York. And then I came here to Dubai in 2021, and I said, no, it's here.
Amazing.
That I want to move. And in 2022, 1 year later, I start living in Dubai. So I think New York, Shanghai, and Dubai changed because I knew that I want something very busy. Every day when I wake up, I think everything can happen, you know. And these cities, they promote that, you know.
Yes.
In these cities, I really think that anything can happen here, you
Yes.
know. A person that we can meet, something that we can experience that can change your life, and I like this feeling.
Everything is possible here.
Yeah. Now, short answers, okay?
Yeah, okay, first.
Top 3 best cities in the world for you.
Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and Istanbul. You?
For me, it's New York. I also love Paris or London, and Shanghai.
Nice.
Top city for food.
Tbilisi
Where is that?
or Batumi in Georgia.
In Georgia?
Both are in Georgia. Yes.
I need to say Lisbon.
Lisbon, okay,
Yes,
nice.
and it's my favorite food, you know. Top city to do business.
Medellin.
Medellin?
Yes.
Nice. I would say Dubai.
Okay, good.
Dubai, Abu Dhabi, so the Middle East region.
Great.
Top city to have fun.
Nairobi.
Nairobi.
Yes.
So nice.
So cool.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing.
For me, like, could be, I don't know, maybe New York is very good. Brazil. Yeah, Rio de Janeiro. I can say Rio de Janeiro
Okay,
in
nice.
Brazil. And now, the top city to live.
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, you say?
Yes. I am in love with this place.
Okay. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, so I think we are done, right? So thank you, everyone. For me, it was a very inspiring conversation. You always inspire me
Same.
and give me motivation to, you know, think in a different way. Thank you. And yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. See you guys.